Welcome to the Fleet Geeks Podcast. We're here to help develop fleet and transport professionals. Do you want to progress and develop your skills and knowledge? We promise to bring lively conversation and debate around interesting issues and keep you bang up to date with changes in our awesome industry. The Fleet Geeks are a community of professionals, and if you enjoy the podcast, why not join the discussion for free in the Fleet Geek community over on Facebook?
Just recorded, we've just been talking about the international rules for vans going into Europe and needing operators licenses, and it led me to beg the question, which I think is an ideal one for the podcast: should vans have operator licenses?
Ooh, well, that's a topical subject, isn't it? I
got shot down on LinkedIn by a van operator a little while ago when I suggested it.
This would not cheer many van operators up, would it?
No, it wouldn't.
This idea,
not at all. But do you know what I'll say? I'll draw a line in the sand. I think van operators should have operators licenses. There you go.
I think we're gonna have to. I'm gonna sit on the fence.
Oh well, I was going to sort of.
You were going to sit on the fence.
It needs something, but perhaps not to the degree of an operator's license.
Yeah,
that's where I was going.
Yeah, we got some splinters there, haven't we now, Jamie? We've been sat on the fence a little bit with that one.
I was going to say.
Yeah. We want to keep the van operators interested in a business.
This one's been doing the rounds for years, hasn't it? And you two guys may be well aware of a product that I used to be involved with when in my time with the FTA, or Logistics UK as now is, the Van Excellence Programme, which was brought about by government at the time. I think this was around about 2010, probably even earlier than that. The government at the time making noises about operator licensing for vans, and I think the trade bodies caught between a rock and a hard place here, really, because their members didn't want it, their members don't want it, but of course, as a trade association, there's obviously an opportunity for them to support van members, members who run vans, and so it's a bit of a balance act there. Yeah, so come on then, Pete. So what's your view on why would we need to encumber vans with an operator's license?
Yeah, good question, right? So I think that a lot of the time vans are unsafely run and unsafely managed, and I think so we'll just take my personal experience. Let me tell you a story of living in Hampton Hargate in Peterborough, okay? I walk my dogs regularly, okay? And then there's this fucking bloke called Gibbs Removals, yeah? I'm not even gonna try and hide it, but Gibbs Removals is a van operator in Hampton. I think he owns about 14 vans, and they're dotted around Peterborough.
Yeah.
They're parked obscuring junctions.
Yeah.
Do you know who I mean? Have you seen them on flyers?
I probably have.
Anyway, in Hampton, they're like literally every possible lay-by in all the public car parks. There is removals vans kicking around, right? And if you're listening, Mr. Gibbs, just come and have a chat. It's fine, right? I didn't really mean to be totally rude about it, but that company need a bloody operating centre.
Yeah,
they've got 14 vehicles. Nothing's managing them. Yeah. And then they may well be running a really nicely run and managed operation. Their only challenge is they've not got an operating centre. And I believe at that size of fleet, they should have. So I'm not saying a blanket operator license, but I'm saying in certain scenarios, like how can a residential place, this is a new development over the last 20 years in Peterborough that's been designed for 1 to 2 parking spaces per household. Yeah, with limited parking availability, and we've got junctions, roads everywhere obstructed by big panel-sided Sprinter vans at 3.5 ton, right? So that's one issue. The next issue is I also live in Hampton, and we have DPD vans that are absolutely racing around the streets of Hampton, and very often I'll look at the condition of the vehicles as they're parked up, and I'll walk past them, and I'll tell the drivers that their tyres are bald.
Yeah.
So we've got bald tyres, we've got obstructed junctions, we've got speeding vans, which I see on a regular basis. And why are they speeding? Because they're not regulated and
They're under
because
pressure.
they're being paid per drop. Which, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure is not allowed under operator licensing.
Nope. That's it.
Okay.
If you're an operator
So what's
license.
good for the goose is good for the gander, right?
Yeah.
So HGVs are no longer allowed to pay people by delivery.
Yeah, it's under the driver's hours rules. Yeah.
But Amazon are allowed to.
Yeah, it's
Amazon
crazy, isn't it?
are allowed to, right? So you've got guys having to do 150 drops a day to make their income. They're being paid a pound a delivery or whatever it is, 50p a delivery or whatever they get paid. I don't necessarily think a lot of the time they've probably got a load issue, but I think those vehicles do a lot of distances. A lot of hours. I think the drivers are tired.
Yeah.
I think the drivers are distracted. Half the time they're doing like local drops. They're trying to find where they're going a lot of the time.
Yeah.
I imagine they build up a good local knowledge, but taxi drivers aren't under that kind of pressure.
No.
To spin around and
taxi drivers are licensed. Or taxis are licensed. Well, taxis and taxi drivers.
Exactly. Taxis are licensed. So why aren't we licensing vans? So that's kind of my opinion. And then you've also got plenty of van operators who do run overloaded. I'm not sure about the Amazon vehicles. I imagine it's just volume rather than weight. But I disagree with, those drivers are starting at the crack of dawn and they're finishing at dusk, having driven all day. Yeah. Multi-drops, they're probably not having breaks. They're probably eating whilst at the wheel. They're smoking whilst at the wheel. And they've probably not had any training whatsoever anyway. No records of their work. I bet they don't have weekends off. And I bet, a good example, one of my mates started one of these Ponzi schemes recently about selling food of all things out the back of a van. I've not really heard of them. And I don't think he'd listen to the podcast, so I'm not really bothered anyway. But they're called Direct Dining Solutions or something like that. They've got a refrigerated van that he sells food out the back of. I'm pretty sure there's no HACCP or anything like that, or food safety qualifications whatsoever on the back of the van. But I tell you what, he's perfect. He put all over Facebook the other day, I haven't had a day off in 3 weeks. Yeah. So I literally commented on there going, well, your employer should tell you that you operate under GB domestic rules, which means you have to have a day off every 14 days. You come back going, I'm self-employed. And I was like, well, you probably ought to take this off Facebook then.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But anyway, I rest my case, right? This guy's on Facebook telling people that he's falling asleep behind the wheel because he's not had a day off because he's on this Ponzi scheme where he probably gets paid 50p for every bit of salmon that he sells or whatever. I don't know. Bloody ridiculous. Anyway, I've chunted on for about 5 minutes.
So I agree with everything you said in that respect, what you've said there. Yeah. There needs to be some kind of regulation, doesn't there?
I agree.
Yeah. However, but what about Bob the Builder, Jamie? What about Bob the Builder, who's only
exactly? Yeah. If he probably only goes in a 20-mile radius doing local jobs. Yeah, handyman perhaps. Would that be unfair to have to go through the whole operator's licensing with him?
No, and I probably agree. Probably not actually.
So they could do a thing, couldn't you? Of 5 vans or more. Where do you draw that?
What about hire and reward? The fact that you're using your van for hire and reward.
Yeah, I think that's the key, isn't it? If you're using your van for hire and reward, you're doing third party, like your removals, like your couriers, parcels, etc. I think to be honest, that's probably the line, isn't it? That's the line. Having said that, there are lots and lots of van operators who possibly would fall through the cracks because even though they're not hire and reward, they're still. I always used to think, the builders that work in London, for example, from sort of Peterborough area or, Kesh and Corby area, they go bombing down the motorway, like, say builders, scaffolders, that type of thing, and then drive back again. You'll find it, if you look at a lot of the accidents and I've done some research into van accidents and, mostly they are, crop tradesmen who have been out to a job and come back again, and it's late at night. They've done 12 hours on the tools, and now they're driving 3 hours back again. So you could make an argument for those as well, couldn't you?
But definitely, yeah.
Mark Cartwright. I had Mark Cartwright on the podcast, and I can't remember what the statistic was. But he reckoned, I'm sure it was something absolutely ridiculous, like you're 400 times more likely to have an accident in a van than you are in any other type of vehicle. And one is
regulated.
Yeah, and 1 in 3 of all road traffic accidents happen to someone who is driving for work.
Oh, yeah, that is.
Yeah,
and what I would
absolutely
say,
correct.
on your comment there about someone doing a full day's work and then driving back in a van, how often do you drive by a van or a van overtakes you? The person in the fast asleep, aren't they?
Yeah.
The driver's still
What
going.
would the driver be? Yeah.
They're doing exactly the same shift because they're leaving, so yeah, it's very true.
Yeah, my sort of research led me to kind of the usual arrangement for that sort of thing is if they don't share the driving, then the driver normally gets a couple of quid extra, for doing the driving. But it does leave a lot to be desired, doesn't it? The van, the van. Having said that, there's some great van operators, and Mark mentioned Mark there. Mark was at the forefront of the Van Excellence scheme for many years, and his passion for vans and van safety has doubtless saved lives. No two ways about it. It has saved lives, but I think Bob the Builder, maybe there's but certainly the higher reward, definitely.
I wonder, and I guess this is probably part of chewing the fat over it, really, it's having the conversation, but I wonder if, based on the volume of vehicles, but obviously with DPD, a lot of them are franchisees, aren't they? So they fall under that. Yeah. But I wonder if, if you're being paid for high, I think there's something in, and I don't think it needs to be as stringent as HGV operator licensing. It doesn't need to be as stringent, but I'm sure there's a place for, if you're hire and reward, or if you're not hire and reward and you've got a fleet of more than 5 vehicles, you need, if you've got a fleet of more than 5 vehicles, you need a freaking operating centre.
Yeah,
you can't park 5 vans.
That's another good point you made there, Pete.
You can't park 5 vans outside your house unless you live somewhere rural.
Hi, it's Pete from Flagship Partners. We're really proud to sponsor the Fleet Geeks podcast. Flagship Partners offer a range of consultancy and training services to ensure that our customers remain compliant and have the best possible knowledge to be able to fulfill their work. If you're interested in support with any of our safety, HR or compliance services, or you want to train to be a transport manager or need driver CPC training, give us a call today.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. I mean, you need an operating centre for HGV because when you open your curtains in the morning, you don't want the fella next door to have overnight moved in half a dozen trucks, and that's one of the things that the traffic commissioner oversees. Interestingly, PSVs don't need an operating centre, which is a weird sort of similarly between the two, or not similarly between the two. But yeah, no, I agree. I think we had this problem when I was, for those, watch this, you'll know that I worked for a local authority. I was the fleet manager for a local authority. And we had a massive problem in Portsmouth. Portsmouth is a very tightly, very densely populated city. Lots of Victorian terraced houses and 1960s high-rise flats. And the streets around Portsmouth, the side streets are just packed with works vans. And at the time, we had about 260 vehicles in our fleet. Well, probably a good 150 of those were vans, and there was a lot of move by the politicians to get rid of this parking issue for vans. And I said, well, the only problem if you do that, we've got a bit of a problem, because that means that's half of our fleets parked out on the streets as well, because that's how we dealt with it. We didn't have enough operating room to keep all the vans, and that's how things work. But you're absolutely right. I think the operating centre, I think there's got to be a number, isn't there? Like as you say, 5's quite a good number. If you've got more than 5 vehicles, you need somewhere to park them, don't you, really?
But then that gives carte blanche to someone that's only got 3, like you say, living down a terrace street, trying to park them all down there. So it doesn't always fit either, does it?
I've seen it. There's been cleaning companies. There's been cleaning companies in Hampton. And just because I live in Hampton, I refer back to it because it's such an ideal, it's such a typical, recently built, fairly newly developed area that's fairly densely populated. It's been designed with green space, but only with 1 or 2 parking spaces per person. Otherwise, it's on the road. There's a cleaning company that have done successfully. They've done successfully well. 6 or 7 vans, only little Renault Kangoos, but they're parked all up one street of an evening. But also, they were getting complaints on the local groups because the neighbours, I'd have hated it. 4 or 5 in the morning, They're all turning up to go and clean offices 4 or 5 in the morning, slide in the door shut.
They're leaving their cars as well. So they're leaving their cars there.
Yeah, exactly.
Which are exactly the reasons why when you want to start operating heavy goods vehicles, your operating centre needs to have off-road parking for all your vehicles, and we need to know the hours that you're going to be working, the kind of thing you're going to be doing, tail lifts, forklifts, doors slamming, drivers coming at all days, hours of the day and night. So all the reasons why you would make a representation against an operating centre, you could have the same issue with vans. It don't make sense, does it?
No. So like I say, I'm fairly confident to bring the hammer down on the fact that I think there needs to be something. Either you two getting splintery bums and coming off the fence.
Well, with
that sounds like splinters.
Well, MOT, get this, MOT 3 years. So if you bought a new van today, you wouldn't need to have it MOT. Yeah. I was with a company, or a little, probably about a year ago now, and they had Fiat Ducatos, brand new Fiat Ducatos. And these people race around the countryside. I say race, that's probably being a bit unfair on them. They carry out their legitimate business around the countryside, and they do 90,000 kilometres a year. Now, this is a good company, and this company inspects their vehicles like they would a HGV. But in theory, that van, or that fleet of vans, could do 270. What is it? 270,000 miles in 3 years, and never have an MOT. Well, until the 3 years is up.
Similarly, as well, they may not inspect it either, or service it.
No, exactly. So. Just fix it when it goes wrong, or when a light comes on. Or
no one's regulating it. So are you coming off the fence yet, Mike?
See?
Are you coming off the fence yet?
I'm coming off the fence. You've made a good argument, actually.
I've got 1 foot down, that's all.
Yeah. Coming off the now, here's an idea. What if as a van operator, now here's a thought. This is business on the hoof. What if, as a van operator, you could subscribe to some kind of service? He says, try not to mention it now. Some kind of service that is like an operator service light that would help you look after your vehicles and would give you the hints, tips, and advice. And practical advice in practical stuff. Would that be not a good idea? So that you wouldn't need an operator's license as such, but you could say, look, I'm in this little club, something called Fleet Geeks or something. I'm in this little club that helps me out. Wouldn't that be?
I think that'd be a fantastic idea, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
You could have a like do the right thing for doing the right thing's sake, right?
Exactly.
People be safer, greener, and greater, couldn't we?
Safer, greener, and greater. Pete, I think you're dying to get that out this afternoon.
Wow.
Tell the listener what safer, greener, and great is then. I'm surprised you've not made Jamie wear the T-shirt.
I haven't had the T-shirt.
I wouldn't put it on.
Safer, greener, and great. Yeah, great. That's a great way.
That's the crux of it, isn't it? Anything to make the road safer is got to be done, isn't it? It's got to be a good thing.
Yeah, and I tell you what, maybe, and absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And maybe there is an opportunity as fleets do eventually, some of them willingly, some of them screaming and kicking. But as van fleets do move over to electric vehicles, being slightly heavier, we already have this notion that a license holder with a B license, a car license, can drive a heavier van on a B license, provided they've done some basic training. And it's all to do around the safety of electric charging and what have you. But maybe there's an opportunity there as we move into the electric market for vans, that we up our game in terms of compliance for operators. We had again, back into my local authority days, we were early adopters of electric vans, and that was a good opportunity for us to have a training program that rolled it out, and it had to make them better, safer, more efficient drivers, because you have to drive electric vehicles slightly differently. So maybe there's an opportunity there as we electrify the van fleet, which is going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whether we like, whether operators like it or not. I mean, maybe, I don't know. I think the jury's still out on the trucks, but
probably stop and parking all down Hampton.
I'll tell you what that'll be. There'll be loads of long leads, loads of long extension leads coming from people's houses.
Or black
People tapping into lampposts and things.
Tripping over, walking their dog, or getting dog poo on them or something. Anyway, I'll tell you what, I'm going to close this, but as transport managers who are listening to this is a really prime example of when I say about something being compliant or it being safe. And that compliance doesn't equal safety. And this is exactly the point. The van fleets we're talking about are compliant. They are to the letter of the law. They are going for MOTs at 12 months. They are parking where they need to park. They're doing everything they need to do. So they are compliant, but are they safe? And that's the question we're asking. And they're not safe. So there's the difference between compliance and safety. Anyway, I'll get off my soapbox. That's it. Hope everyone's enjoyed it. And we'll see you all on the next
episode.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please share with your friends and colleagues too. Join us for free on Facebook with the Fleet Geeks community for transport and fleet managers. Fleet Geeks offers ongoing professional development, networking and mentoring too. So get in touch with me, Pete Rushmer, on any social media platform to find out more.